State College and worked in the private sector for several years. Taylor returned to school in 2015 and earned a BBA in Management and Marketing from the University of West Georgia in 2018 and a master's in Public Administration in 2021. After serving with the Department of Planning and Urban Development in Monroe, Louisiana, Taylor had the opportunity to return to Thomaston and serve the community that served him throughout his youth. In his capacity, Taylor directs the Thomaston Main Street Program, the Downtown Development Authority, Historic Preservation Commission, and all City of Thomaston events. Taylor also oversees national chain recruitment, neighborhood revitalization, and housing initiatives within the city. Taylor serves on the board of directors for the Georgia Downtown Association, University of West Georgia Alumni Association, and Southern Crescent Technical College Board of Directors. Taylor lives within the Silvertown National Registry District with his fiancee Jennifer, son Emery, and their 3 dogs. And he just had his son a few weeks ago. They just have a new baby. So welcome, Taylor.
Thank you so much, Trisha. Yeah, we do have a 23-day-old at home. So for those of you that are parents, you understand kind of where we're at in this phase of our lives. I can say I have a mother-in-law currently living with me, so that has made my life much, much easier than it would be if me and Jenny were doing it by ourselves. But excited to talk with you guys today and share a little bit about our success with the Rural Zone program and how this has really been a catalyst for our downtown development, revitalization of our downtown. And, feel free to stop me as I give this presentation. Happy to answer any questions or concerns that you guys have. I'm going to give a little bit of information on the front end, kind of about Thomaston, then a little bit about the Rural Zone program, and then we'll get into kind of some of the projects that have happened. We've matched our Rural Zone program with some other incentives like Facade Grant, some cool collaborations and partnerships we've created over the past few years, and how to really take advantage of having this designation. So before I begin, just want to make sure everyone can see my screen. We're good?
Can see it.
Okay.
Yes.
What about now?
Looks
Can you see my
great.
face?
Looks great.
Can you see my face?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
Making sure it changes. Okay, so like I said, my name is Taylor Smith. I'm the Economic Development Director for the City of Thomaston, Georgia. And welcome to From Heart to Soul, developing downtown Thomaston. And the reason I say From Heart to Soul, the City of Thomaston was the first community. Thomaston-Upson was the first community in the state of Georgia to go through the Orton Family Foundation's Community Heart and Soul program. And so what that is a very big kind of community engagement session. In our community, we were a textile community that lost its textiles. We lost about 4,000 jobs between 1996 and 2003. With that, we lost 85% of our small business stock, along with 1,500 of our population. Losing our mills was losing our identity. And for nearly 2 decades, this city really was trying to figure out who we are, what we wanted to be. And so we had a group of leaders back in 2017, 2018 that really came together and said, hey, I think we need to engage our citizens and engage them in places that we typically wouldn't engage them to. Let's talk about what makes Thomaston special, but why do people choose to live in a place like Thomaston? Because nowadays you choose to live where you want to live. And so the Heart and Soul program occurred between 2018 and 2020. And during that time, we were able to touch over 7,000 residents in our community and engage them in certain, instances and just get their thoughts and feedback on what makes Thomaston a special place, but what we can do to make Thomaston even better. And a big piece behind that was really reestablishing downtown Thomaston as the heart and soul of the community. And so you can see this beautiful picture of our historic courthouse square dating back to the 1920s. Thomaston has been around for 200 years. In these 200 years, this town has transitioned tremendously over the course of time, but this is is an incredible community with a tremendous amount of opportunity. And so coming back in 2021 and taking this position, my first task was applying for rural zone. When I sat down with my city manager and I said, what do you want me to do? He said, you've got to get this rural zone designation. And I can just remember the amount of stress I was under, terrified that I would not get this designation. Never in a million years did I think that Thomaston would become, I don't want to say the model, but we essentially we've had more rural zone projects than any other community in the state of Georgia since this program was conceived. So it's been a tremendous program for our community that we've really tried to tap into it. And if there's one suggestion that I can make for all of you, don't just get the designation. Having the designation is one thing, but take the designation, utilize the designation, get people signed up for this program, because at the end of the day, this is a stepping stone to further programs, more funding, different things that you can come to the state of Georgia, the Department of Community Affairs, and say, look at how we utilize this program. We want to apply for this. We want to apply for this. I was just telling Trisha earlier, right now, like she said, I do a lot of things outside of kind of rural zone in my community. As far as the housing front, we have two DCA funded projects that are happening in my community right now. One of those being a LIHTC project that's going to be a $20 million investment to create 54 units of senior housing. The other being a 90 single family home development supported by a Rural Workforce Housing Initiative grant. Both of those projects had my name and my signature on it, and submitting that to the state of Georgia, submitting that to DCA, it speaks volumes when you can say, look at how this community utilized this program. We want to see them be successful. We're going to give them this program or this designation as well. So just take advantage of the fact that you earned that rural zone designation, but then show the state what you can do and how you want to take advantage of that designation. So with that, like Trisha said, I'm the Economic Development Director. I oversee all of our downtown and national chain development. I do our housing team. We're a GIC community. If you have housing issues in your town, definitely. Can you hear me now? Is that a little better? I'm on my iPad.
I can hear you okay. Maybe folks turn up your volumes on your devices.
So we're a GIC community. So if you're not familiar with GIC is the Georgia Initiative for Community Housing. If you have housing issues in your community, I definitely suggest that you look at GIC and see if that could be a program that could be a good fit for your community. I oversee all of our neighborhood revitalization, which goes hand in hand with our housing and downtown/national chain development, along with our Thomaston Main Street program, where I have one person underneath me to help with our Main Street event planning, promotions, marketing, etc. I'm on the Georgia Downtown Association Board of Directors, where I am the incoming secretary. I'm also the chair of the legislative committee, as well as an alumni of the Georgia Forward Young Game Changer program. So done a lot the last few years, but we've got a lot ahead of us in the city of Thomaston. So just sharing a little bit about downtowns in the state of Georgia. This data comes directly from the Georgia Main Street program. There are currently 536 cities in the state of Georgia. Only 91 of those communities are Georgia Main Street communities, but you can see the incredible statistics coming out of those 91 communities. Just in 2024, those communities saw nearly 700 new businesses created, over 3,500 full-time jobs, 931 rehabilitation projects with $824 million in revitalization and investment. Those are incredible numbers, but I always say, imagine if we had the data for all 536 cities across the state of Georgia. Downtowns are the heart and soul and the lifebloods of many of our communities, and they don't get the support. They don't get they're not put on the pillar like your large scale industrial projects, your big 1,000-person manufacturing project. But at the end of the day, without a lively downtown, without small businesses, without those restaurants, without those shops, you're not going to get that massive industrial investment in your community. So it is critical for us to invest and, pour our time, our effort, our money into revitalizing that heart and soul of our community. And all of you are doing that by, applying for this rural zone designation. But like I said, don't just take the designation, take advantage of the designation and really help your property owners and business owners.
Hey, Taylor.
Yes, sir.
This is Dennis from Grantville. Robbie Higgins, our new city manager, has sent a message and is wondering if you can turn your volume up. And I hear you loud and clear, but for some reason she doesn't hear you. And so hopefully she's hearing this question, and hopefully everyone's turning their volume up, but I hear you great. I don't know if you can turn yours up at all, but that was a message that she sent to us a couple minutes ago. Thank you.
How's this, Dennis?
It sounds fine
bit
to
clearer?
me. I mean, I have to say what you had before was better than what you have now. I don't know how everyone else on the call, is hearing you, but I'm just relaying the message that Robbie sent a note in the chat. If you could turn your volume up.
Okay, we're good.
Melanie just said she can hear you loud and clear. So Robbie, I hope you can hear him.
Well,
I
if
think-
not,
and
you
you can
guys,
always
are
replay
just
this.
you guys are just down the street. So I'm happy to come and do a presentation for your community in person. Any of your communities on this call today, if you would like for me to come and present for your community, for your council, for your property owners, business owners, please do not hesitate to reach out. I'm more than happy to do that and support you, because your success does not hinder my success, right? I want to see you be successful and take advantage of this designation. So if you can't hear me fully, feel
That's
free to
super.
reach out personally.
I looked up where your city's located, and you're not too far from Grantville. We're going to arrange a meeting for you. So
Yeah, y'all come and see me. I'm happy to host
Absolutely.
your communities as well. If y'all want to come to Thomaston and see, and I'll be honest, I think once you see some of the pictures and some of the things, I think you'll want to pay a visit. But
yeah.
happy to do that. Happy to come to
Yeah.
you or host you guys as well. So like I
Right.
said, rural zone communities, you're looking at the map right here. This is the updated map. Thank you, Tricia, for getting this over to me. So as you can see, we are in our last year of designation. We currently have 40 rural zone projects that have been approved in Thomaston. I told them when I first started that I wanted 50. That was my goal. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to make 50, with the issue being, the jobs have to be created, at least 2 for the entire year. And I know when she was going over kind of that ITRZ form, unless you're going to have 9, 10 or more jobs created, those jobs really need to be established now. So I've got a couple of buildings that are under renovation that should be finishing out in the next month or so that are creating, significant 8, 9, 10 jobs that will average out to that 2 at the end of the year. But you have to be able to show 2 FTEs for the entirety of the year. That's correct. Right, Tricia?
Yes, sir. You got it.
Yep. So, just be aware of that, knowing that once you're starting to get towards the end of your rural zone designation, if you've got projects that are nearing completion, but they're not going to wrap up until the beginning of that last year, make sure they realize that they have to show those 2 FTEs for the entire of the year. They will not qualify for those credits. This is just some data. This is a little dated. Hopefully have some new data the next time I share this with people. But this is just some data to really showcase some of the success in the rural zone community. So this is 2018 to 2023 within the rural zones and the designated rural zones in the state of Georgia. You're talking about over almost 1,400 jobs created, over 29 million in property purchase, 7 million in tax credits distributed, 23 million in rehab costs, with 6 million, right at 7 million in tax credits distributed on that. So, roughly 50 million or more in property purchased and rehab costs, with 15 million, give or take, on that tax credits distributed. So it's definitely a win-win for your community. And I'll share some of those successes in our community here shortly. Little information about kind of where Thomaston is. We are the county seat of Upson County. We're the only city in Upson County as well. We have a population right at 10,000. The big thing about Thomaston is we are the biggest city in a 7-county radius. So Thomaston not only serves the 10,000 of the city, the 30,000 within our county, but the 150,000 that surrounds us in this 7-county radius. We have the only Walmart in a 7-county radius, the only Home Depot, Chick-fil-A, Longhorn, Aldi, Whataburger, the only hospital in a 7-county radius. So we have some very big economic drivers that support our community, but also this West Central Georgia region. That was not the story that was being told when I came to Thomaston in 2021. The story being told back then was that Thomaston was a dead and dying mill town, and that's all it was ever going to be. Coming in back in 2021, I really wanted to kind of flip that script and flip that narrative so people could understand that, look, Thomaston is the socioeconomic hub of West Central Georgia. We don't just serve us, we serve this entire area. And I'll say we've definitely found some of that success the last few years. You can see in this little map on the right side our proximity to the Atlanta metro area, Macon, Columbus, LaGrange. Realistically, you can be at the Atlanta airport, depending on traffic and on Terra Boulevard, within an hour and 15 minutes at the latest. We are seeing a lot of push from that southern metro area, Clayton, Henry, Fayette, Coweta, Spalding. It continues to push south. And with Thomaston being this kind of hub of this entire region, having some of those larger city amenities, we're seeing that influx of people coming to our community. And so we're really on the cusp of extensive growth, but with my job kind of encompassing both economic and community development, it's very important to us to grow strategically, right? We want to grow, we want to expand economic opportunities, we want to see small businesses be successful, but we want to make sure to keep that hometown, small town charm that makes our community special. I know for some of you, much smaller than 10,000 people, but very similar. I walk downtown, I know these business owners, I know these properties owners, they know me, they know my parents, they know my grandparents. It's still one of those communities, and it is critical today more than ever that we maintain that sense of place, because that's what people are searching for. The hustle and bustle of the world is draining my generation. I'm 32 years old. I'm the type of person you want coming and investing and buying a house and having a job in your community, but you've got to make it attractive for them to come to your community. So I mentioned a little bit of kind of the steps that we've done to set us up for success, right? And so Heart and Soul was kind of that data gathering, task that we took on between 2018 and 2020. In 2020, I failed to mention we are the headquarters of Tidal Wave Auto Spa. So if you know of a Tidal Wave car wash company, Tidal Wave, the car wash company, they are headquartered in downtown Thomaston. Their CEO, Mr. Blackstock, took a group of leaders from our community down to Bainbridge. And if you have not been to Bainbridge, Georgia, and seen their success over the last, decade, 2 decades, it's incredible. They completely transformed their downtown. Very similar community to Thomaston, sub 15,000, located on the Flint River. The Flint River runs about 5-6 miles outside of the city of Thomaston, not on the interstate. We are not on the interstate, but then again, the biggest city kind of in that region, and their downtown had been decimated, just with the flight of your businesses to the main highway corridor, and just the 70s and 80s and the 90s and the way downtowns are treated back in the day. So Mr. Blackstock took a group down to Bainbridge in 2020 and asked them, how did you do this? What did you do? And the one catalyst they said helped them more than anything was Rural Zone. And so prior to me even coming in, our community started to lay the groundwork for us to apply for Rural Zone by beginning a master planning process with WLA Studios out of Athens. So we did a master plan between 2020 and 2021 and tied that in with a market analysis, which is required for that Rural Zone application. I was hired June of 2021. The application, I believe, was due around August, September. So I had to kind of pull everything together, get that submitted. We were given the Rural Zone designation. That is from 2022 until 2026. Some other things that we've done since then, we have a downtown historic district. And so between 2022 and 2024, we updated our historic resource survey because we were out of compliance. It's called Certified Local Government through the state. We're out of compliance on that footprint. We applied for the first cohort of CRC, which is Connected Resilient Communities. That is under the University of Georgia Archway Partnership. If you are not familiar with Archway and the University of Georgia Public Service and Outreach Program, I highly, highly recommend that you do some research and figure out a little bit about that, because the University of Georgia is a tremendous resource. And with them being a land grant institution, it is their duty to serve communities across the state of Georgia. So we applied for CRC and we were awarded that designation, and we worked with the University of Georgia on several projects, and some of those you'll see in just a few moments. We established our facade grant program, and then we also updated our design guidelines for our historic district That, along with the historic resource survey, we did that as we worked to apply for a national registry district in downtown Thomaston. Having the rural zone program showed me that the tax credits can be super, super impactful when you're trying to do some of these revitalization activities. But the state tax credits, they're limited. They have limited uses. There's only so much you can do, versus if you can open the door for federal tax credits, that's a game changer. You can really identify some developers and some investors that need to write off some of those funds that can invest in your community and take advantage of those tax credits. So we're in the process right now of establishing not one but two national registry districts in downtown Thomaston to hopefully open the door for historic rehabilitation tax credits to be used in our community. These are just some of our rural zone statistics. So 2023, the total assessed tax value of our rural zone properties was $23 million. 2024, that had been bumped up. They did a reassessment and it was at $51 million. This year, I'm working on my rural zone report, trying to get this completed by the end of the month. I just got our new assessment for the rural zone properties for 2025, and we are at $61 million. So you're talking about, almost $40 million in just the last 3 years. They had not done a reassessment of our downtown since 2020. So this just shows the amount of investment that has occurred here and how this has done exactly what this program intends: to take your downtown, invest money, get the credits, and then watch what happens to the appraised values in your downtown. I mean, we've, basically tripled our assessed values in the last 4 years in our downtown. And so without this program, that would not have been possible. 40 rural zone projects so far. Hope to have, I'll realistically probably finish with 43, 44, something along those lines. And then just between 2022 and 2024, we had over $12.5 million in private investment in our downtown. And now that we've seen private investment happen in our downtown, it's given me the opportunity to get my council on board to make some significant public investments into our downtown as well. So it's been just a tremendous program for us, and we continue to kind of build upon the successes that we found. Talked about marketing, flyers, programming. We are an ECG community. I cannot shout them out enough. Diana Quar with ECG, she's kind of the graphic designer. I have these ideas of, hey, I want to tell a story. And then I go to Diana and I say, can we put this on some type of flyer, some type of marketing material that I can then use? And so this is just a little bit of kind of developing downtown, really showcasing the investment happening in our community. You can see 2022, 2023, 2024. That is both public and private investment. I'm sure the question is, well, Taylor, how do you get that data? I'll tell you. Number one, we are a Georgia Main Street community, meaning we have to do monthly reports for the Georgia Main Street program. As part of that monthly report, I'm required to give them information on properties that have sold within our Main Street district, along with renovations that are occurring within our Main Street district. So I have a partnership with our tax assessor's office where I work in conjunction with them to identify those properties that have been sold. That's acquisition within your district. So that's a number right there. And then I have a partnership with our building official downstairs. And so they give me a list of all the permits that are being pulled within the district. And I notate, okay, this is what this investment is for. They're doing a new HVAC here. They're going in and completely redoing the interior of this building, XYZ, right? So that's where I grab that data from. I also get our new businesses and the jobs created. I get that information from our permitting office. So they tell me new business licenses that have been pulled, along with the number of jobs that have been created. And then I obviously keep up with the rural zone projects. Any questions on this form? As part of our facade grant program, we have a historic color palette. While legally in the state of Georgia, you are not allowed to tell someone what they can and can't paint their building. If you've got a facade grant program and you're giving them money to paint their building, you can. And so through our facade grant program, if you're coming to us and you want to make exterior modifications to your building, including paint, we ask that you choose from our historical color palette. We have allowed certain applicants to steer away from this color palette within reason, with the idea of we know what we want and what we don't want in downtown Thomaston. And so this has been a godsend in itself. I'll tell you this, a lot of our business owner, property owners that aren't even going through the facade grant program, when I share this with them, they'll say, hey, you know, I was actually thinking about West Highland white. This is exactly the color I was looking for. And so we find a lot more uniformity. We have been able to provide 27 facade grants in the last 4 years. With that, I was just updating that report. With that, we have done right at 130,000 in actual facade grant investments. That has led to over 415,000 in total investments within our downtown. Yeah, Amanda.
And there, what is the maximum amount that you give out to a project for your facade grant?
Yeah, so we match up to five. We match up to $5,000 on any of our facade grant projects. We do have some certain limitations built into our program. So when we first rolled out the program, we had a lot of people coming through with signage and awnings and strictly signage and awnings. And so we made those items non-exclusive, meaning that we'll only cover 25% of that cost. And so really this program is targeted towards, you know, structural integrity, structural rehabilitation. You need to replace doors, windows, paint your building, lighting, things like that. We will support awnings. We will support signage. But again, it's only at that 25% reimbursable rate versus everything else is at the 50% reimbursable rate. The big caveat about our program, and I'll share that in a couple of slides, we allow property owners to apply per business, per address. So I've had multiple properties that same property owner, separate address, separate business that have been able to apply, you know, basically for each one, right? So it's a $40,000 investment overall, but they are able to get 5,000 per building, per business, per address. We also allow our facade grant program to be utilized on an annual basis. So if you have a project that you're kicking off in October of 2025 and it's a $40,000 project, you can come in and you only want to do the $20,000 project in 2025. You can come back in 2026 once your 2025 project is wrapped up and apply again in 2026. And so we've seen a lot of people take advantage of that as well, just because, you know, rehabbing some of these historic buildings can be very, very costly. And we want to do our best to be partners. I mean, that's what this program is based on. We want to be partners and help our property owners and business owners find success in our downtown.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So I will say this: if you have a facade grant program and you do not have a color palette, highly suggest come up with a color palette. It definitely helps. All right, guys, let's look at some of the facade grant projects and some of our rules on projects that we've had. I mentioned some of the partnerships we had with the University of Georgia. This is one right here. So at the top, you were looking at the before. That was Webb's Barber Shop, and then eventually it became the Chop Shop. Was purchased by Miss Jenny Nicholson back in 2017. Obviously, the before and the after are completely different. Miss Jenny, she had a vision for what she wanted her property to look like. The challenge that we ran into was that we didn't have a lot of people that could take their vision and put that on paper, something that could be submitted for our Historic Preservation Commission to review. And so we actually, as part of our CRC collaboration with the University of Georgia, we partnered with the College of Environment and Design, Jennifer Lewis and her students, and we had about 8 historic preservation graduate students come down to Thomaston and work hand in hand with these property and business owners to create facade grant renderings that could then be utilized for our facade grant application process. And so that bottom left, you're looking at one of the UGA renderings that was delivered by the students. And then on the bottom right, you can see that that final project. And so this is one of the properties that it's owned by the same person, but it is a separate business and a separate business address. So we were able to do a facade grant for both Jenny's Chop Shop and Alibana Cigar Lounge, $5,000 per property. And then it was about just over 13,000, right under 14,000 in actual renovations on each building, each property, I guess is the way to put it. Here's another rendering that was delivered by the University of Georgia students. When I came back in 2021, this property was Main Street Billiards. Today, you have Battle Dress Apparel, which is a locally founded Western wear store on the bottom left. On the bottom right, we're about to lose them because they are outgrowing their space. That is Milltown Bath and Candle. When I met Rebecca, the owner of that property, she was operating out of her pool house out in the county. We got her into a manufacturing space in downtown. She then transitioned into this space, which offered retail as well. And she has now purchased a 9,000 square foot building and will be transitioning from 3,000 square feet to 9,000 square feet. Mind you, 3 years ago, she was operating out of her pool house. She is now based out of 100 locations across 17 states in the nation. So it is an incredible story of small business success. And this is a rural zone project. Upstairs in this property, they are doing the final touches on our first downtown residential units. We'll have 7 residential lofts that will range anywhere from $1,100 to maxing out about $1,350, $1,400, and they're all loft. We do have one bedroom unit that's kind of a separate bedroom, but really excited about that because, as I stated earlier, we have a major need for housing. Another property that got both separate business, separate address, same property owner. So we were able to do $5,000 per business license per address here. You have an interior design studio on one side, and then you have a home decor store on the other side. This just happened this last year in 2025. So this building, Daniel's Men's Shop, was a Thomaston tradition. It was founded by the Daniels back in the 1960s, operated for nearly 50 years before going under when the mills closed. The building really sat vacant for the past 20 years, and we had a downtown business that had started out in a smaller space, about 1,000 square feet. She was able to sign a 5-year lease on this property. The property owner went in and did a complete renovation of the structure, spending in excess of over $200,000. But with that, you can see the DDA investment for the facade grant as well. For some reason, back in the 70s and 80s, our town went a little crazy with metal cladding. You'll see in a lot of my pictures where metal cladding was removed from the structure and these beautiful historic structures were uncovered. But this is just another testament for the revitalization happening in our downtown. Before and afters, again, metal cladding. And then you can see what was hidden under that metal cladding. This actually, we did some research on this building, and when it was built, it was actually Upson Bank, and it looks like it went under during the Great Depression. So Black Monday, this bank was one of the banks that fell. The windows, those beautiful curved windows, they were hidden behind that metal cladding. We had no idea that ornate architectural detail was on the structure until we uncovered it. And it is currently being finished out as Avi's on Main, which is going to be an Italian restaurant that will be opening in downtown Thomaston in the next few months. Before and afters. Both of these being rural zone projects. The top left picture, Raina's Outlet, that building had sat vacant my entire life. I'd never seen a business in that building. The other property was Beautifully Made Studio, and it's roughly a 2,700 square foot building. They were only using about 400 square feet in the front of the building. The rest of the space was vacant. And so now you have Little Ones on the right side where Raina's Outlet was, and then we have a new coffee shop that's been opened by a transplant family from Miami. They've opened a Cuban coffee shop, and they also do like acai acai bowls, smoothie bowls, fruit bowls, rice bowls. Very cool little quaint new little restaurant spot in downtown Thomaston. And you can see another facade grant project, both of these being rural zone projects. Before and afters, the pool room cafe, which was a mainstay in our downtown, was purchased and renovated last year and reopened as a. They have some of the original food items, but they also now carry Greek food and Indian food. And for a town like Thomaston, that kind of offering did not exist. So they have done very, very well. The bottom picture shows Thomaston Marketplace. This is a massive building, roughly 6,000 square feet on the main floor, as well as an additional probably 3,000 square feet in the basement. Went in, and this property owner actually split the building in half. So on the right side, we actually have Fat Joe's Burritos now. They're a Tex-Mex location, like a Moe's Chipotle type environment. This is their second location. I was able to recruit them from Griffin. On the other side, we actually call them incubation type suites. And so they created a hallway in the center, and we have 4 small business suites in that area. We've had 2 small businesses that have started in this marketplace that have then transitioned into bigger spaces. One of those being Peacock Feathers, who purchased a building in downtown in 2025, did extensive renovations on that building, and also a rural zone project. I can keep going. Did I miss one? No. Okay. I mentioned that we're working on a national registry district in downtown Thomaston. This property is kind of the catalyst behind that national registry establishment. This property was purchased at the beginning of last year by a group of developers that strictly do historic tax credit projects. The old R.E. Lee Math Building, my office sits on the old R.E. Lee High School campus. This building has sat vacant for about 40 years. As you can see, is in much needed repair. One of the previous owners actually went in and gutted the entire building. So when you walk in the first floor, all you do is look up. There's no floors. It's just a 3-story building that is completely open. But a group of investors from the area, they see a ton of potential in this, and they have been approved for a mixed use, adaptive reuse redevelopment to convert this building into 11 residential units as well as a commercial space on the ground floor, roughly a $3 million project. Big piece behind that, they need the historic tax credits to do the project. So that's why we're working on that national registry district. The developers, the investors actually donated money to our local nonprofit, Thomaston Upson Heart and Soul Inc., for us to apply to be on the national registry. So we are not paying for this national registry application. The developers themselves are paying for the application because they see this as the first of hopefully many projects that they can do in our downtown. These are just a few of the businesses that have opened in our downtown since 2022. You saw some of the ones like Milltown Bath and Candle, little ones I mentioned, Fat Joe's Burritos, others that have been, extremely successful. I have to shout out Lily Jane. Lily Jane is a female-owned business right in the heart of our downtown. Kaylee Neighbors, much like me, born and raised here. Her father owned a small business. She left, came back to Thomaston. Kaylee is 3 years younger than me, so that would make her 29, 30. Last year, she made the transition from 500 square feet to 5,000 square feet in our downtown, and she is doing absolutely phenomenal. Also a rural zone project. You can see our little rooftop right there. Shout out our mural artist. That mural itself, you see the little Coke and the lady piece. That was a ghost mural. So we had pictures of this building from the 1930s, 1940s, where that mural existed. And so I applied for a grant through the Georgia Council for the Arts. I worked with the University of Georgia's Color the World Bright. If you're not familiar with Color the World Bright, I highly recommend you look that up. So they are a student-led group of artists out of University of Georgia, and they will actually come into your community and do work for a third of the price because they want their students to have some of that firsthand experience doing this type of work. And so we got that mural done for just over $10,000, I do believe, and it is a very, very large mural. We had a brand new bicentennial mural that I failed to include on this presentation that was done this past year. You're talking about that wall is probably 100 feet long. We did a mural 100 by 60, 60 by 150, maybe 120, 150 for under $50,000. So highly, highly, highly recommend check out Color the World Bright because they do great work. Upcoming projects 2026 and beyond. So currently we've got 3 buildings under renovation. I mentioned Avi's on Main. I mentioned the residential units upstairs above Milltown and Battle Dress Apparel. We also have the build out of HJ Wings and Things in our downtown. They hope to be open around early part of February. That's an existing business. They have 5 locations kind of within the west central Georgia region. I believe they have a location in Grantville. And when I saw them in Grantville, I said, well, what the heck? They should be in Thomaston. We lose about $100 million a year in food and beverage in our community. So we have a ton of opportunity to recruit new food and beverage users in our downtown. So that's what we are doing. Build out of Thomaston Courtyard and multi-use pavilion project. We actually have our multi-use pavilion project under construction now. That is a $1.8 million pavilion. It's a 120 by 60 cover pavilion. It also includes downtown restrooms and concession areas, 32 parking spots, EV charging stations, along with raised garden beds. This is 1 block off of my courthouse square on a vacant lot that had been vacant my entire life. The city had bought this property back in 2020 for roughly $80,000, and we've been sitting on it for the last few years. And we were finally able to identify a couple of funding sources that were not taxpayers, at least our taxpayers, and we were able to bring this project to life. We also have awarded a contract for the Thomaston Courtyard Phase 1. That's a 2-part project that's going to eventually create a walking kind of pedestrian alleyway behind our main restaurants in downtown. But the first part is going to reconvert a parking lot, add some new parking spaces, create some enclosed dumpster areas, really just clean up, good lighting, good signage, nice plantings, a nice parking area right there in the heart of downtown Thomaston. We are currently trying to finalize our downtown hotel project. That would be 1 block north of our downtown farmers market, roughly a 4-story project, 90 rooms, $15 to $20 million. We have a fire station in downtown that our DDA owns. Been trying to really push that for food and beverage. I'd love to see a, brew pub, brewery type concept. It's just very costly. Set realistic goals. That's one word of wisdom right there. Don't tell yourself you're going to come and land this $30 million project. In reality, it may be a $2 million project, right? So let's set realistic goals, because I had very high hopes for this fire station. It's a 1960s structure that really hasn't been renovated since the 1960s, and it was built as a fire station. To convert that into a food and beverage end user, you're looking at minimum $2.5-3 million or more dollars. So it's just very costly. Another project that we did with the University of Georgia was a full-scale 10-block pedestrian safety and streetscape plan. One of the challenges we have in downtown Thomaston is that every road around our courthouse square is a state or federal highway. And so we have major issues with pedestrian safety, walkability. We've had vehicles get hit. We've had buildings get hit. We've unfortunately had pedestrians that have been hit in our downtown that have lost limbs. And so we've got a 10-block plan to basically completely redo the streetscape of our downtown. We applied for some federal funding last year, made it to the 2nd review round, but unfortunately we're not awarded. So we'll be going after GTIB. GTIB is the Georgia Transportation Infrastructure Bank. They have a program that can offer low interest loans as well as grants for transportation related projects. And we're going to be able to utilize our T-SPLOST revenue to offset those loan payments to go ahead and implement this pedestrian safety and streetscape plan. So that application is due February 13th, with awards being announced later in the summer. So my hope is that we really start to kind of nail down and finalize everything towards the end of the year and start construction in 2027. Our courthouse has been relocated along with a lot of the county governmental offices in downtown Thomaston. They actually just built a judicial center south of our community for our court facilities. And so we are working, the city, the DDA, the county are working together to identify developers to convert some of that governmental office space, but also identify a new use and adaptive reuse of our courthouse and what we can and can't do with that. I mentioned the R.A. Lee Math Building, and I've mentioned the National Registry District as well. Here's just a few renderings, a few pictures of what's going on. Top left, obviously, that's my downtown farmers market, multi-use facility. The two on the right, that is our proposed hotel project. And then that bottom left, that is that courtyard project, with phase 1 really being the parking lot project itself, and then phase 2 being that alleyway. And then here's just really an aerial photo to kind of show you some of the synergy that we have in downtown. That 5-way intersection conversion to the roundabout, that has been completed. Like I said, the downtown farmers market multi-use facility, that is under construction. The downtown courtyard and parking improvements, that construction should start in the next few weeks. I believe we have a pre-con next week. And then the hotel, we hope to break ground on that later in the year. And so we have a lot of projects that are finally coming to fruition in downtown Thomaston. But like I said, without the rural zone program, without that, I mean, it was a catalyst. It's been a catalyst. It's really helped me sell new investors, new developers to come to this community when they never heard of Thomaston, could give two shits about Thomaston, but they saw the opportunity. And today it is much easier to get people to come to Thomaston and at least hear me out, because typically once I get them here, I can sell them on doing something and being a part of our community. It's just getting them here. So with that, any questions you guys have, I'm happy to answer it. And like I said, if you would like me to come and give an in-person presentation to your community, feel free to coordinate with me, or you're welcome to bring your community and your rural zone team down to Thomaston, and I'm happy to give you a tour and kind of walk you through everything.
Any questions, folks? You can unmute.
Some lively discussion, guys. No, thanks again, guys, for just giving
Taylor,
me the opportunity to
who
share.
drew your very last slide there?
Our
The
engineering team.
overview? I'm
Our
sorry?
engineering team. Our engineering team.
Mhm.
We outsource our engineering to Inframark. And so I'd reached out to them and asked them if they could put me something like just aerial visual of what it could look like. So, because I talk about it all day long, right? But when I can show it on a map, this, and how
Right.
it all really ties together, it makes it much easier to sell.
Looks great.
Congratulations on a job well done.
Hey, Taylor, this is Mayor Proctor of Grantville.
Hey, Mayor, how are you?
Good. When you were discussing investment from the city, now I understand the grants and all this, but you aren't talking direct investment from tax dollars into businesses, are you?
So our facade grant program is coming directly from our general fund. That money goes from the city to the DDA. So the DDA is annually allocated $50,000, and then the DDA is the conduit for the facade grant program. Other investments, like I said, the multi-use facility, that's actually ARPA funding. We had about $1.3 million in ARPA funding, and then we're utilizing T-SPLOS for the parking lot and some of the sidewalks. And then whatever we're not able to cover with that, we're covering with some leftover SPLOS dollars. One of the biggest things for Thomaston, with us being kind of that socioeconomic hub of this region, the T-SPLOS, the SPLOS, the E-SPLOS, those are critical for our community and allow us to really make projects come to fruition that typically wouldn't be able to come to fruition.
I got that, but other than the first program you talked about, there's no direct investment into specific businesses, which I just had a big meeting this morning with a bunch of businesses. We can't promote one over the other. Certainly, you can have plans to build parking lots or better sidewalks or whatever you got to do. But all this is done through the general investment. So you're not like, because the constant refrain I get at times is, what is the city doing to help the businesses? What do you want us to do?
What are the businesses doing to help themselves?
That's the real question.
I mean, end of the day, and doing business in 2026 is very different than doing business in 2006 and very
Yes.
different than doing business in 1966, right? We live in a very different world. And so
Mhm.
I'm all for supporting my small businesses in downtown Thomaston. I'm a phone call away. I cannot tell you the number of people that have my phone number, that text me, call me. I'm a wealth of answers, right? But there's only
Right.
so much that I can do. Our
Right.
business owners have to put forth effort, have to
Sure.
maybe, you can't continue to do the status quo. If the status quo is not working, it's not the mayor of Grantville's problem. You're a business owner. You have to learn how to pivot. And so one thing that I would highly recommend is identify your local small business development center contact. The University of Georgia's SBDC, that is a free resource that can work hand in hand with small businesses. They help with business planning, financial projections, marketing, branding, logistics, wholesaling, merchandising, you name it. They work
Mhm.
with it. And so we have a local contact, Julie Ferguson. She's based out of the Columbus office, which is probably y'all's, realistically, it's probably y'all's consultant
is.
as well. And Julie is phenomenal. So there's a lot of businesses that say, hey, I want to open in downtown Thomaston. And I come to them and I say, okay, well, talk to me about your business plan. What are your financial projections looking like? Have you met with a bank? Do you have the capital to actually come in, buy a building, rehab a building, and realistically not make money the first few years, because not many small businesses do. And they're blown away because they don't have any of that homework done on the front end. So one thing I do, both existing and startup businesses, I really try to just be that conduit to connect them to the University of Georgia Small Business Development Center. And they have small business consultants that can work with them hand in hand on different things different challenges and issues they're addressing. So that's one thing, one very small thing where you can just be the conduit to, maybe you don't have the answers, but you can find someone that can provide some guidance and answers.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Absolutely. Let me think
Anybody
about some
else?
words. Let me think about some words of wisdom that I can share with you guys real quick. Know your property owners, know your business owners, know when property sells, right? I mean, you need to know, if you have a rural zone, you need to have someone that's working your rural zone day in and day out, that really has a pulse on your downtown, that knows what's happening, knows that Mr. John has been talking to Mr. Jane about potentially selling that property, and Miss Jane is looking to open a flower shop that's going to create 3 jobs, and she's going to also have a little classroom space. You've got to know that, because once you know that, and once that happens, hey, Miss Jane, let's get you signed up for Rural Zone. I'm on these folks. Like, I've got a list right here of people that I need to complete Rural Zone projects. It's sitting right here in front of me, so I do not forget about it, right? I mean, you need someone day in and day out that's managing your Rural Zone. And then take advantage of the fact that you can have a property owner get the credits for rehab, for acquisition, and a business owner get the credits for job creation. Hell, maybe even the business owner gets job creation and rehab, but the property owner gets acquisition. I have multiple projects where I have both the property owner and multiple businesses. Again, Battle Dress, Milltown, that's 2 businesses. Plus, that property owner was able to get it for acquisition and rehab because the business has created the jobs. So you're talking about 3 rural zone projects in that one building. So make sure that oh yeah, they've got the jobs. Let's get them signed up. Make sure you're staying on top of that. That's one of the big pieces of wisdom that I can share with you guys. Make sure you know what's happening in your downtown. And if you do not currently have a point person that's going to run this program, figure out who that point person is going to be, because they need to know your downtown, your property owners, your business owners inside and out.
Know the players. Absolutely.
And if they don't want to play, find new players.
Yeah. Make something like, I know some communities started some kind of a tax where, if the place looks like junk, you're going to get taxed because your place looks like junk and you're using it as a storage facility. Maybe that'll help to push them out.
We've discussed a vacancy tax. We've discussed an
Mhm.
active use policy. There's another thing. If you do not have updated zoning, update your zoning ordinance. Back in 2022, we went through the task of updating our zoning ordinance for the first time since 1967. Okay. My mom was 3 years old, guys. She's 61 now. So it was definitely time to update our zoning ordinance. And with that, we actually established a separate DT district, downtown district, because again, we know the types of businesses we want in downtown Thomaston, and we know the types of businesses that we don't want in downtown Thomaston. Is it perfect? No. Are there cases that come up that need to be addressed where you've got to make modifications and text amendments? Absolutely. But if you do not have updated zoning and you have businesses that want to come to your community, if they're not outlawed, guess what? They can come in. If you don't have rules in place, they're going to do whatever they want to do because there are no rules. And at the end of the day, some of these businesses, it's all about their bottom line. It's all about how can they make money, and they will take advantage of the lack of rules. So please, please, please be sure to make sure that you've got it outlined. This is what we want. This is what we do not want. Critical.
For your wisdom, Taylor. Always a pleasure.
Absolutely. Like I said, guys, I think I'm on the email thread from this calendar invite.
You
So,
are.
feel free to email me separately. Happy to come meet with you guys, talk with you in person, do something virtually, whatever works. But Happy New Year to you all, and look forward to reconnecting.
Happy New Year and congratulations, Taylor.
Thank you so much. We'll see you guys later.
Sounds good. Bye. All right, guys. He is so vested and so knowledgeable. And I think some of his stuff was just try, fail, try. You could just keep trying. Let's see. All right. We're all set for the last section of our program today. Anybody have any questions before I get started? All right, well, here it goes. All right. Taylor was so important in showing you guys a successful downtown with using the rule zone. So now we're going to look at some rule zone, how to promote it, and your annual reporting requirements. So here are some lessons we've learned from expired rule zone team leaders. Now, upon expiration of your rule zone, we'll have an outgoing meeting, because you never know, this program may not be sunsetted. Next year's the last year for applications, and after that the program sunsets. But I don't know how many programs have sunset in Georgia. Not many. So maybe it'll keep going, maybe it won't. The best way to promote your program is with face-to-face interaction because of the complexity of the program. So you just got to give them bites of information at a time so that they can digest what you're saying. This is a complex program and it's a lot of information to share. So like I said, lunch and learns and that kind of thing are helpful. Christian Hamilton, which I think he's gotten a promotion in Toccoa, but I think he's still with Toccoa. He would accompany real estate brokers when they were showing a property in downtown. So not only would he discuss the rural zone tax credits, but he would also discuss the local facade program and other incentives available in their downtown. Make sure your local CPAs and real estate brokers are aware of the program. Like I said, we could do a lunch and learn virtually. I can come out. If 25 or more people, 20 or 25 people or more are coming, then I can come out physically. If not, I can do a virtual and answer, questions or whatever. We could do a lunch and learn if I come out. We can do a lunch and learn if I'm virtual. It's up to you guys. We want to make sure local CPAs, like I said, and real estate brokers are aware of the program. The communities agreed that the main reason businesses did not use the tax credit was because they did not create 2 jobs. Secondly, was because jobs created were not W-2 jobs. But even if that doesn't happen, they don't get to take the credits. Maybe you're you know, helping your downtown grow with a mention of this program. And even if they don't get to take it, there's other local incentives maybe that you have. Aaron Phillips in Springfield shared that although very few businesses took advantage of the tax credits, the Rural Zone program provided her with a conversation starter to talk about the downtown with prospects. She said that when they applied for Rural Zone designation, she had 41 buildings vacant and now she has 2. I don't know how late that information is, but that statistic is, but that's pretty doggone good. The ways to promote your Rural Zone tax credits: newsletters, newspaper articles, handouts, at the Main Street, the hub of your Main Street, the Civic Building, brochures, postcards, signs. I'll show you some of those examples. Presentations, as I said, if you want me to come out and do a lunch and learn, or web pages directly on your city's website, your town's website. This was the press release that went out on December 5th about your rural zones. I'm not sure if you guys saw it on the DCA website, but it was on, I think, our front page and on the Rural Zone webpage as well. It was a little bit longer than that, though. Here's a one-page info sheet, which is some of the information I will provide to you, I believe. If not, feel free to reach out to some of these communities when you get this stack and see if they'll help you out. Like, Taylor is more than willing to help out folks by sending information, so you don't have to create the wheel. You can just copy, change it, and release it. So that's Rossville's. And it's an information page where you can put at the bottom, someone, you could put your Rural Zone team leaders information down there and they can reach out to them. Here, you all received an official map of your Rural Zone. This is the Rossville one. You could have that on the back of the brochure so people know where the Rural Zone area is, the approved parcels. Here's another brochure. For West Point, put this one together, describing the Rural Zone tax credits. Here's the brochure from Bainbridge. Here's one from Bainbridge, and that was a trifold one. Here's the other half of it. Very informational, very short and succinct, and then at least is the conversation starter. Here is the Bainbridge website. They've got the top right here is the Rural Zone tax credits, and a click button. They can learn more about it. They click that button, and this is what comes up: the map and the contact name. Here's another part of that web page for Bainbridge. Just lays it out easy so that you can open your conversation. This was Bainbridge just in 2 years. They had taken almost like 150,000, a little more, of the job tax credit. The investment tax credits taken were closer to 175, and the rehab was over $500,000 in 2 years. Here's Perry's web page. Describes the program, and here's the bottom part of that. And then they have click here for a summary of the Rural Zone program. Click here for the Rural Zone building rehabilitation standards and the contact name. Here's signage. You can put this in vacant buildings or vacant properties. That's from Monticello. This is another Adele's website, I believe. I'm not sure if that's a brochure. I believe that's a website. But the contact information, the web page, this must be a brochure then. A postcard. This is an example of a postcard. Here we have the rule zone calculator. Now this I will give to you guys. This is for you guys. And it's got the 3 credits, the job tax credit, the investment tax credit, and the rehab credit. And you fill out based on the top, of course, you've got to have jobs either by the tenant or this is the top box is from the tenant perspective. So they might just be getting the job tax credit, and then this will calculate it down. Or the second box down is from the owner investor perspective, if they are creating the jobs. So see here, 4 jobs were created by the tenant, and see how it goes down to the bottom section, calculates out the 8,000. As long as they maintain those jobs, they've got their $40,000 credit. And I thought I calculated a couple more of those ways. Sorry. Oh, I'm pushing the wrong button. That's why. Sorry, guys. All right, so here we go. Now, this is from the owner investor. They purchased the building for $400,000. Their $100,000 is 25% of their purchase price. And down at the bottom, that fills out what they would see in credits. And this gives you a good estimate to show them. There's a rehab example. Here's one that the owner tenant does everything. Creates 5 jobs, $4 million purchase price, which, 25% of that is greater than 125,000. So 125,000 is their limit. They had 75,000 in rehab costs. 30% of that is 22,500. So over the life of their 5-year rule zone, or their 5-year period in which they're taking the credits are almost $200,000. If you subtract that from the cost of the purchase and rehab, they're netting out to under the $4,075,000, a lot less. So here's an example of what you could put together in a brochure or online. It gives the 5-year designation for such and such city and when it's valid. And I underline eligible in all these because it goes back to those NAICS codes if the business is eligible or not. Here's another section that you could put on your website or in a brochure. You can also put this blurb in your brochure or website. Just a summary of it, so at least it gets folks talking to you or you talking to folks in the downtown area. Here's more example of how to word it so it's summarized. Here's the rehab standards. There's no summarizing those. There's 10 of them. And it have a picture of your local contact or their information in there, that block. So once they get the certification approved or acknowledged and accepted, they'll get a copy and the 2-page letter from DCA. And that's pretty much, these are some FAQs you can put in there or have them at the ready if these folks ask. So some supporting tools. DCA has the DDRLF program. Sally Bruce is in charge of that. It used to be Cherie also, but it's now Sally. There's the Main Street program. You could have a facade grant program, a local revolving fund, or a boost, some type of boost program. And I think that's it, guys. I will send you information on our YouTube channel, which this will be uploaded to it. And you'll go into the Rural Zone playlist. Okay, that's all of that. Now let's get into the last section of talking about your annual reporting requirement. So communities are required to attend an annual training, which I'm not 100% sure we had one last year. No, we did. But it's usually over the summer, so that you guys can tick that off, that you attended a training. You've got to submit annual reports detailing the steps you guys have taken to facilitate business development within the past year and private activities that have spurred revitalization efforts within your rural zone. I think we've talked about these results. So even just in 1 year, the average vacancy rate for the 9 rural zone communities named in 2018. So they started at a 26.1 vacancy rate, and just after 1 year, they were down to 18.6%. And the total number of parcels that were sold within those 9 rural zones over that first year were 72. So the total number of buildings renovated were 48. Total new businesses were 42. Total of new jobs created were 195. Total public investment made within the rural zones for that 1 year was over $2 million. The total private investment in the same year was almost $8.5 million. Here is a peek at what the rural zone annual report will look like for 2026. So at the end of this year, this report is what you guys are required to fill out and submit to me. Going to ask for the total assessed value of the parcels within the rural zone for 2025, so we get your starting point. Then the total assessed value of the parcels within the rural zone for 2026. The total number of parcels acquired within the rural zone that are eligible to claim the rural zone investment tax credit. Next one down, the parcels that are within the zone, they're not able to claim the rural zone tax credit yet, but they will in a future year. Number of buildings renovated within the rural zone that are eligible to claim the rural zone rehab tax credit for 2026. And the number of buildings renovated within the rural zone that are not eligible to claim the rural zone rehab tax credit yet, meaning probably the jobs haven't been created. The investment has been made in the one above, and the rehab maybe is done, but the jobs need to be created. And the last question on this part that you can see on this slide is the total number of new businesses created within the rural zone eligible to claim the job tax credit. The next one down is new businesses within the rural zone that are not eligible to claim the job tax credit yet. And that's, like I said, probably because 2 jobs haven't been created. An estimated number of jobs created within the rural zone, total. Estimated value of public, meaning local government investment within the rural zone. Total estimated value of private investment in 2026, and the vacancy rate percent estimates for parcels within your rural zone at 12/31/26. So in addition to this, you're going to attach a description of the steps you guys and the local government have taken to facilitate business development within the rural zone over the past year. So you're going to describe it to me, and we will be able to share successful activities with other rural zone communities in order to provide insight to allow other community members to achieve similar success in their communities. So reaching out to Taylor, he might could give you some advice if you're stuck on something that you're trying to do, see if he's done it before and how he did it successfully. You're also going to attach a description of renovation projects and new businesses that have located within your rural zone over 2026. You're going to include a separate page for each project. And on those pages, you're going to attach a description of the building prior to renovation work or new businesses locating there, description of the businesses created, number of jobs created, and which of the 3 rural zone tax incentives were utilized. If a building was renovated, please include a description of work completed before and after photos and total square footage renovated. If available, add clippings or press releases about those projects. And like I said, it's going to be due December 31st, 2026. I will send an email about it to you guys. And another reminder in January if you have not been able to send it to me. Does anybody have any questions on anything we talked about today? I think sometimes you need actually to start using the program before some of your questions are going to crop up. Does anybody have any questions? If not, I think we go ahead. Shanna?
No question. No question.
Okay. So the purpose of today was to understand the rural zone designation and the roles the rural zone team leader and team have, understand the 3 rural zone tax credits, understand how to walk businesses through the process of utilizing the tax credits, getting started in your community, and ways to promote your rural zone. So the rural zone team leader and team are going to understand your basics, promote it. Team's going to assist the team leader. Team leader will be the one to sign off on the certification form and work with businesses to submit plans if they're going to rehab. Oh, it says Cherie, I mean for me, prior to the work beginning. So I think we've gone through that.
This is Kevin from Alma. Just one question.
Yes.
In these other communities that previously have the designation, what has been the frequency that the rural zone team will meet? Every month, every other month, other than just the regular, I guess, day-to-day promotion of this stuff around town, just formal meetings.
To you guys how often you want to have them. You know, if you've got a lot of things in the hopper, then you probably need to meet more often to talk about those and keep everyone on the same page as to what's going on in those properties, who's involved and the like. But there's no set time. And I will reach out to folks and find out what's kind of good for everybody's schedule to get the annual training scheduled for 2026. But keep in mind, I do have 38 or 39 communities, 30, that are going to participate. So it'll be, I'm sure we will record it as we recorded this for folks that couldn't be here, or if you want a refresher or someone new comes in. And that's the same thing. If next year when I do this, I'll send an email to everybody and ask if anybody wants a refresher, and they can join for part of the day, the whole day, whatever they are so inclined to do. That's, oh my gosh, I'm going to give you like most hated thing people say, I'll give you 10 more minutes back of your day. Anybody have any other questions? If not, feel free, if you want to just ask it, send me an email and you can ask me if you just want to ask just me, not on this forum. Feel free to reach out and I will send you the stuff. Give me by tomorrow close of business to get everything together and send to you. Oh, you're welcome. Happy to see everybody. Oh, someone from every community was here. So, like I said, you'll be able to review the YouTube presentation, then fast forward or rewind to whatever part you want a refreshment from.
Yes, ma'am. Thanks for the day. Thanks for the training.